Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Fritz, and I'm here with Damon Lewis, and you're listening or watching to the the Astral podcast. This is a show essentially about spirituality, but with an emphasis in meditation, lucid dreaming, and astral projection. And today we have ourselves an interview with a special guest, Andrew Staub. Andrew Staub, he's been a psychic teacher for about 25 years. He's a really gifted clairvoyant and a healer. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Yeah. Glad to have you, and love the art behind you. So, I think a good starting point here would just be, how did you get into spirituality? Like, when was that kind of, what part of your life, and what was that experience, just kind of waking up or getting into spirituality?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I am a lawyer by profession, and I was working for a company in the suburb of Chicago, Evanston, as a lawyer, and I hired a secretary because my secretary had quit, so an administrative assistant, and she turned out to be a graduate of a psychic school, which happened to be down the street, literally a half a block away from our offices in downtown Evanston in a big bank building. So she kind of, I poo-pooed it, and she talked me into finally going for a reading. I thought, okay, what the hell? I was, very intellectual, totally rational minded. Just think of a young lawyer and how they think. And that's how I grew up. Never really any spirituality or anything, certainly in my family or in my upbringing at all. And so I went for a reading thinking, okay, well, this will be kind of a joke. And I went for a reading, and there were 5 students, all women, kind of lined up in a straight line in front of me. Another woman in the back who was what was called the control. So she wasn't in the reading, but she was doing something. And they gave me a reading. And one person who was in the middle of this line was the one in charge of it. So she spoke most of the time, but the other ones did as well. And it actually just blew me away. They were telling me things about myself that I knew, but would maybe never admit or admit even to myself. And so it turned out to be a very profound experience, unexpected.
Right.
And then I thought, well, it really piqued my interest. It got me interested in, what was there that they knew. What did they have that was different than other people or than even me? And so I went and I took a class. And everybody has their own way. They find their way, at least to their spiritual path, I think. So this was my way. I took a class. I liked it. It was something that was real to me, which I didn't really expect to be real to me, but yet it was. And so I took more classes, and I took, there's basic classes at this school, and I learned how to do healing, a non-touching energetic healing. And then I proceeded to take a couple of more classes at the basic level. And then they had a 1-year training program to turn on your clairvoyance, which is the ability to see energy, which Andrew, you know about. And I did that, and it kind of blows you away when you do that, and your reality opens up, and the possibilities open up, and you spend a lot of time trying to make sense of things in that 1 or 2 year period.
You don't say.
like, what the hell is going on? What is the world? And it's not what I thought. And so it really sends you it just sends you on your own journey. And you have to, kind of scramble a little bit, but also step into bigger things. And, you know, and then after the year of the clairvoyant training, I did some more kind of higher level stuff. And then I went into the teaching training, which is another year after that. And then I took some time off, and I went back there and taught. You know, you kind of start out as a junior teacher, and they kind of give you little bits and pieces, but eventually I was teaching classes and teaching basic classes like a meditation class, and teaching a clairvoyant class, which is a higher level. And then finally, you know, teaching higher levels where the students who are graduates of the clairvoyant training are working at a pretty high level. And you can't just jump into that. It takes years to get to that point. So I was teaching those along with the director of the school, and I taught in some of the more higher level ones. And so that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah.
That's the short version. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know that. We've known each other for a while, but actually my experience was actually pretty similar. It was because I moved to Chicago for art school, and Ryan was my dorm mate, and he found the school, and we ended up getting aura readings. And I had a very similar experience to you, which was kind of like, oh, this resonates, but how'd you do that?
Yeah.
And then jumping into it and wondering what the hell's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, the amazing experience, but yeah, the growth periods that come along with it. So
Right. It opens your awareness in ways you never thought possible. And so there's a lot that you have to kind of learn and cope with and reconcile as you go through.
right. Damon, do you have a question that you want to go with there? Or,
I'm still waiting at this point, just because I don't think I have a question that I can add to the conversation yet. But
okay.
I'm definitely interested.
Yeah. Okay. And so I guess when you started getting to the advanced trainings, can you start talking about what those were or what those were like when you're kind of getting past the main year-long clairvoyant training?
Well, the key is to, you know, have the ability to turn on your clairvoyance.
Right.
And the key to that is to be able to be neutral.
Right.
Meaning not let emotions or intellect, basically those two things, influence what you're able to see. Because typically that's how we work, is our emotions and our intellect, you know, is the filter through which we see. But in clairvoyance, you don't do that. You take those two things out of the equation, and you're able to see simply the energy and whatever the energy might be indicating. And that takes practice. And that's why you do the clairvoyant training for a minimum of a year before you do any advanced training. And usually you can't even go into an advanced training or the more advanced trainings, you have to do less advanced trainings first, right? But you can kind of work your way up so that you get more skilled, more comfortable, and more certain with your clairvoyance. And then what you can learn from looking with your clairvoyance, right? And then once you get that down, more or less, you never really get it done perfectly, of course. Yeah. But then, like, you know, as you know, Andrew, you can learn techniques of, you know, having you move your awareness out of your body, you know, and have experience out of your body, right, which you absolutely can. And then you can similarly learn to have experience bringing things into your body, you know, that aren't you. And I've been doing, you know, well, I did a trance medium program, which is what that is called, is getting your seniority with bringing things in, but not letting them stay in. You're bringing it all in by choice, and then having it leave when you're done. And I did that 2.5-year program at the school that I started with, and then I've been doing it with 2 other schools in the years since, and I'm in a training program right now. So You're always learning. And that's like a whole nother level beyond clairvoyance and even beyond, out of body astral awareness as well. So
Right.
there's always a lot to do. And, obviously the more base of experience you get and the more certainty and comfort in that particular area, the better you can move on to additional areas.
Right. Yeah, I've 'cause I remember, because I think you're referring to a school that you said was in Evanston, right? That
Yeah.
yeah. And then because I remember being at Ken's school, and I hear people talk.
That's it.
Oh, same one.
Yeah, same one. It wasn't called that at the time.
Okay, so
Wasn't it?
Started there, and then he moved.
Then he moved, right?
Oh, okay, got it. All right, I didn't know that. All right. So because I've heard talks about, people that have been around longer than I was there would say, oh, there's this transmediumship thing, but he kind of doesn't really do that anymore. So I was always like, wait, what is this transmediumship thing? So that's what you're referring to then.
Yeah, he did it. He decided, I don't think he's done it since,
Yeah.
but he did it for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
So there was a class of 5 students. 5 of us were in for 2.5 years. It's, working with energy as a teacher and as a school it's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
It's more than if you were teaching kindergarten to kindergartners, because you're working at a higher energy level. You're working with much more than just the bodies, right? You're working with interactions happening between people on a spiritual level. Right. And all these people are all in these huge, what we call, all the people in the school, each of them, teachers included, are all involved in huge growth periods, what we call growth periods, all at the same time, all very unique to them, to themselves. And I mean, it's like, if you could watch the energy of it, it wouldn't look anything like it does on the physical level, right?
Yeah.
It would look like a storm, But on the physical level, okay, people are walking around, sitting down and meditating, But on an energy level, it's like, holy crap. So that's why there's so much to deal with as a teacher that you don't deal with and you don't even see as a student.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's hard to have a school. It's not an easy thing to be responsible and take care of a psychic school, because there's so much going on.
Right. So it's been a while. You've actually taught me, and I want to say that was like a part of a spiritual autonomy training. But then we've also been in classes together. I can't remember what classes. I don't know, maybe it was the men's, maybe it was the astral, or both. I really don't even remember. But I know you've taken, and maybe even taught this, I'm not sure, the astral trainings. So that's a big part of what I think our audience is really intrigued with. Can you maybe speak to that, just from whether you're teaching it or your own personal experiences being in the training? And
yeah, the astral training was really interesting. Part of it is about, and I have done it a couple of times. I think, you can do a training and then go back a few years later and get, new things out of it. Right. So I've done that. I've done that for the men's training. I've done that for the astral training. The astral training is great because it's part healing, part astral experience. And so you learn how to give somebody a healing on their astral body. The astral body is kind of the spiritual body that, when you have a physical body, it resides in your physical body, but then that's what leaves, and that's what you experience, when you're dreaming. It's the astral body experience. Your astral body isn't bound to your body. So you get to learn how to give a healing to that body, of somebody else, give a healing to someone else. And give a healing between the relationship, not only the astral body itself, but the relationship between the astral body and the physical body, right? And so that the relationship is enhanced from the healing.
Right.
And then but then the astral body is also empowered because it's more complete. And then when it goes out on its journeys, it's more complete. It's more you there. So there's that aspect of it. And every time you give a healing, and Andrew, you may have told this, mentioned this quality, but when you give a healing, you always get a healing, right? Or at least it's always available to you. And so whenever you give an astral healing, you're receiving a healing on the same level to some extent. So there's that part of it. And then there's the part of it of like looking at and you're reading as a clairvoyant, right? You're using that skill all the time. You're using that skill, but you're looking at your experience on the astral oftentimes. So, and your ability to have experience on the astral and to have that freedom and all the energies and limits on that freedom. And by looking at them, and this is how clairvoyance works, and this is how spiritual practice of this nature works, is when you can look at something and see it clearly. If it's an obstacle, you can clear it. Right? So by looking at something, you kind of say hello to it. That's what it's called. And then that's 90% of getting rid of it. It might take a little more. It might take a willingness. It might mean you do it in a couple of different stages, but you really can heal. That operates as a healing, a different type of healing, but a healing nevertheless, where you can take a step. So if you clear an energy, then that means you can take a step, and maybe you're more capable, or a limit is released or reduced, or you're more safe in a certain environment, or your ability to communicate in some way is greater, or your ability to have something for yourself is greater, and that block was eliminated. So, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell how I saw the astral training as working. And again, it's like you'll hit different levels, as you move through it. And if you do it a second time, then you hit new levels as you move through it. So you're always growing, you're always moving forward. That's one of the things about spiritual practices that is always the case. You can never I don't think you can ever really go back. You can go into denial, right? but you can't go backwards.
Right. Yeah. Some cases you might not want to.
Right.
Yeah. Good old denial.
So in the astral course, did they teach, or did they go into creating an astral body and being able to put your consciousness and put your consciousness into the astral body? And what were the techniques that they were teaching, if they were doing that?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, absolutely. You spend time on constructing the astral body. And you could say all of us would naturally have a complete astral body, right? Because it's part of our agreement when we take a body that we bring in an astral body. But over time, we may lose parts of that because of various energies that we encounter over life that we refuse to deal with, or resist, usually resisting it. And so our astral body gets maybe diminished. And so our power on the astral is in that way lessened. So part of the focus of the astral training, as I recall it, was to restore the astral body to its fitness, to its normal health, which is a complete astral body. So like a complete representation of your body, but in an astral energy. And that's not something that you just do once, right? And it's over. It's something that needs to be maintained, kind of like brushing your teeth. You know, you can restore your astral body and then you don't do anything. And 5 years later, it's like, oh, well, part of my astral body is like, it's no longer there, or it's, kind of deteriorated. But then you can also simply, use the same practices to reclaim and reinvigorate your astral body to get it back to its healthy state. And then the more healthy you are in your astral body, the more capable you are on the astral levels. Does that answer your question?
I'm more thinking about like creating an astral body externally, like an astral vehicle to move around in the astral plane or wherever you would want to go. Were they teaching that kind of thing, how to externalize your energy and how to transfer your consciousness, your awareness into that vehicle?
Yeah, sorry if I wasn't clear. That is inherent. So your astral body, when you're awake, resides in your body, and when you go to sleep, your astral body can leave your body and journey on the astral. Now, and it may be, I haven't tried this, but I know other people have and can and do, and that is do that consciously when they're awake. I haven't done that.
Okay.
One thing you guys mentioned to me, was, well, what about out of body experience or, lucid dreaming? I've had lucid dreaming experience, but that was when it started out being asleep, and then I kind of woke up into it.
Yeah.
Right. And was flying literally in my astral body, but I've never gone from consciousness, wakefulness to that experience of traveling on the astral. I'm not saying you can't, because other people say they've done it, and I have no doubt they have. So,
can you talk about that? Just you said that flying experience, just what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I'm trying to remember. I mean, it was, if I had not been trained as a clairvoyant, I would have been totally freaked out by it probably and woke up right away. Right. But because I had been trained and it was not, something out of my realm of awareness or anything at the time, I just kind of followed it and went through it. And it felt like kind of like piloting a missile, I kind of steer it, with fins and kind of things, but I kept moving forward at this really fast pace. I don't really recall, like, because I didn't stop anywhere, so I didn't stop to experience anything. I was in the journey part of it, and moving very quickly and kind of shifting between scenarios. And that was very cool, like the sense of flying, because it really was, on the astral level, like flying.
Right.
That was the experience. So, yeah, I mean, I've had other experiences on the astral, where I'm in more direct contact with somebody and things happen at a more reasonable pace. It's not about flying, but that experience was very visceral. I knew I was awake yet asleep at the same time. And I consciously experienced myself going through that, kind of watching myself and being in it at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And kind of going like a step deeper, I guess. This is something that I'm pretty highly fascinated with. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences taking like spiritual autonomy classes, or even from a teacher's perspective? Because you were actually one of my teachers for that training when I went through it. You just talk about what does that even mean, or what kind of training is that, and maybe your own personal experiences of being at those high levels in those type of meditations?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Well, spiritual autonomy is kind of exactly what it says, in the sense that, in the school environment, you take classes and they're with other students in the room, in the class at the same time, and you're guided along a programmed kind of path. We start with the class number 1, you go to class number 6, or if it's a year-long program, you go from the first class, the first month, and you kind of go through the first 3 months, and that's a block, and the next 3 months are a block of classes that kind of cover a certain area, the next 3 months, the next 3 months. And then by the end, you've gotten to a certain place where, you have certain capabilities and certain training and proficiency. So the spiritual autonomy training is more geared towards the individual, and you finding your own way to be on your own path, if that makes sense. And it's about clearing things in the way of your path. It's about becoming aware of what else is out there that the classes that you've taken haven't given you training on. You don't need, a year's training on it, but it's something, and just one thing that comes up and is how to work with DNA, right? So that's like, well, who would have thought that you could work with DNA, your own DNA, psychically? Okay. How to work with spirit guides, certain kinds of spirit guides, and what kinds of spirit guides might be out there for you. All sorts of things. And yes, and each class is individual. So you're one-on-one with the teacher, and you might only meet with the teacher once a month, because it's the autonomy part of it is for real. It's like, well, this is really self-study, or, in a way it's self-study. So here's what, here's something to work on for the month, right? And then you have that session of, a couple hours with the teacher. And then like, all right, well, I got something to work on for a month now. So you don't do that in a normal class. It's not left up to you. It's like graduate level study, right? It's like your PhD level study. It's like, okay, you know what you're studying. Your commitment is here. We're going to give you, the framework, and it's up to you to work on it. And, you're not writing a thesis or anything, God forbid, but but it's an opportunity to take that information and run with it. And then the next month, you learn a new framework or a new item. You investigate past lives, you investigate future lives. You learn this in the, anyways over the course of your clairvoyant training, but there's no time or space on a spiritual level. So you can move through time and space without any trouble,
right?
And so you learn, well, where is there to go? When you can move through time and space, what is there to find out?
Right.
What can you learn about? And so the spiritual autonomy is opening yourself to those higher level informations and experiences that you wouldn't otherwise get in a class. Might not be appropriate for a class, with a whole bunch of students.
Yeah.
And, maybe one or two other students to sometimes read with or talk with about it helps. But a large class might not work because the individuality, it's too much. I don't know. I might be wrong about that. And you can teach parts of the spiritual autonomy, in a group, but other parts you can't. So for example, at the school, we did a healing, a line healing once a month or something like that. And everyone was invited. All the students from the school or their friends or wherever were invited. I think it was free. And 40 people could get a healing in an hour. And those students, the students in the class would sit in line, and maybe there was, I don't know, 10 students in the class. And they'd sit in the line and they would give somebody a higher level, astral level kind of healing.
Was that
2 minutes?
The mystical healings?
A mystical healing, yeah.
Okay.
They were the mystical healings. That's what we call them. And it was amazing and wonderful. And people would have these tremendous experiences. And the more sensitive they were, the more training that they'd have, where they became more sensitive, which is what happens, you know, the more of that healing they might feel. But how much they had, that wasn't really dependent upon how much they could feel. It was just how much they were ready to receive as a being. Right. So they could get a 2-minute healing, and then the healing might take 2 minutes, and then we might take 2 minutes for some of the readers to just say what they saw that person clearing, what the healing was, right. Which validated, it helps make it real, but it didn't really affect the outcome of the healing. But then the healing was 4 minutes, you know, yeah. So in an hour and a half, you know, or 3 minutes even, you could heal 30, 40 people in an hour and a half, 2 hours. And those were like miraculous things. They were really fun and lighthearted, and people kept coming back for them. So they were a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you mentioned kind of the personal or individual aspect of that training. Because I remember a personal experience of, you know, at that point we've already covered past lives. And then I remember with my teacher, it was, you know, kind of came to the realization that I never even looked at the most recent past life. And that was a doozy, because I think I was just resisting the hell out of it. And when I looked at it, it was, I mean, it's a big healing. I just kind of just seeing it for yourself and just like, wow, okay, that was the last one. And how you start to connect the dots with what's the current life. It's just like, oh, this makes so much sense. But
right,
seeing the whole process of, or at least the highlights of, oh, this is what happened. And even seeing the moment where you know, your body in that lifetime perished, it can just evoke all these emotions with yourself and just like, whoa.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, you kind of stop dead in your tracks, just like, oh, okay, there's that. That's a lot to process all in just one little meditation. So,
right.
Yeah.
And that's one class in spiritual autonomy.
Right. Yeah.
Just looking at your last past life.
Yeah.
That's just one class. Yeah.
Yeah. Damon, do you have a question, or do you want
me? Yeah. If you know, you've been doing this for a very long time, and trying to sort of relate it to lucid dreaming or astral projection, do you have suggestions of, so with all the training that you've had and all the classes that you've taught, what could be something helpful if people are listening or watching that could actually, you know, help them reach a conscious lucid dream or projection?
That's a good question. If you asked Andrew the same question, he'd probably give you the same answer, and that is to get your body safe. And that's using, I mean, this is what I learned, so this is what I have to recommend. I mean, there might be other ways. Maybe somebody already has this, but make your body safe, make your spirit safe in your body. And that's using a technique like grounding. And if you kind of want to take it to the next level, then what Andrew and I learned is running energy, which is clearing energy out of your body, helps also. And if you want to kind of focus it even more, well, doing those things before you went to sleep, right? And then having the intention, kind of creating an image that that's what you want. Because I think that's what I did when I had that lucid dream. I
Mhm.
think I just thought, oh, it'd be nice to have a lucid dream. It wasn't, it's like, I know you guys clearly are very interested in it. It wasn't something that was too much in my consciousness, during the clairvoyant training and that kind of thing. And maybe because I was scared of it, I don't know. But I thought, as I recall, I thought something like, oh, it'd be cool to have a lucid dream. And maybe I thought that for a few nights before I finally had one,
And what about techniques for raising your energy? Was there techniques that you learned or taught about? So you were just saying about grounding and running energy and clearing energy.
Yeah.
Do you have any techniques, or have you been trained for like raising your energy to say at the end of the day, you're normally very tired, you're normally ready to go to bed, and you don't have a lot of energy? Do you have some sort of technique you can share to lift that energy up? Or if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're so tired, lift that energy up?
Well, and Andrew would say the same thing. I mean, what I said, grounding and running energy,
Mm-hmm.
and being in that neutral place, which, what Andrew and I learned as the center of your head, your
Mm-hmm.
sixth chakra. Those are ways to raise your energies, because
Okay.
when you clear your energy, when you clear your space, which is your body, including your aura, when you clear your space of the foreign energies that aren't yours,
Mm-hmm.
that empowers your energy to come in and fill you up with your energy. And that just naturally raises your energy, raises your vibration. You become more your own truth, your own self. And that will raise your vibration.
That makes sense. That's part of the technique that I was taught when I was learning about astral projection. It's called the Velo technique, voluntary energetic longitudinal oscillation, just moving energy up and down. Long name for moving energy up and down. And the point of that is to loosen up your energy, to decouple any energetic blockages and any negative entities that might be around you or influencing you. And obviously what you're saying is similar, if not the same technique, but very similar.
Yeah, same principle, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that the energy naturally just runs when you clear the gunk out. And I'm actually going through a physical manifestation of that, trying to detox myself, like getting kidney stones out, taking hydrangea root and stuff. I'm not telling anybody what they should do. Everybody has to look up their own stuff. No medical advice here. But getting rid of kidney stones and going to work on my gallbladder and liver, and same kind of thing energetically, getting rid of a stone or a blockage or something that's holding your system back from working at peak performance.
That can absolutely be done. At Andrews in my school, I know students and teachers there both who one kind of cleared MS, like she had an MS, and she got rid of her MS. Another had wore glasses. She cleared her eyes, so she doesn't wear glasses anymore. Another one got off of Ritalin, I think, and without, so using meditation techniques and other things as well. So yeah, absolutely. And everything, I had a client who, and I won't share her name, but this was a few years ago. She went to the doctor and she got an x-ray, and she had a ovarian cyst. And so, and it was, it had to be operated on. And she had been working with me for a couple of years, a few times a year. She'd get a reading. And she never went through any training or anything, but she kind of got the process of what you needed to do to release energy, like Damon, what you were just talking about. So, and in a reading, you release energy. So I said, well, why don't we look and see why you have this ovarian cyst, right? Like, because there's, there's always the spiritual energy first and then the physical manifestation. So everything on the physical level happens spiritually first. So that cyst was a result of some blockage of energy of some sort on the spiritual level that manifested in her body. So we took, I think we had maybe 4 or 5 appointments. And I kind of read, well, what's this about? Why is there this blockage here? And she worked, she resisted it at first because she didn't want to hear it, right? But over the course of 4 or 5 readings, plus I was giving her healings before each reading, she then went in for, the operation, and the doctor couldn't find the cyst. So she had cleared the cyst, like you clear a kidney stone, like you're hoping to clear a kidney stone. Yeah. She had cleared the energy. She had moved through it spiritually. She didn't have the blockage anymore. So the energy the physical part of it just disappeared. And the doctor's like, well, where's the cyst? I don't understand what's going on. She thought it was hilarious. The doctor was disturbed by it because it's not supposed to happen.
Right.
But my client was like thrilled. She was happy she didn't have to deal with recovery and that kind of thing from the operation. So yeah, absolutely. You can use moving energy to move things on the physical level and heal yourself. Yeah. As well as, you learn how to heal other people too, using energy in the same way, always from a neutral perspective.
Right.
Yeah, that's something, Andrew, that's something that Tommy talks about. That was his process. A person that Andrew and I know from Facebook, his process was he spent a few months removing blockages, and then was able to, have his energy run just the same as what you're saying, being able to build energy and, project after doing that work, the diligence of clearing up blockages.
Yeah, and these are not new techniques. They've been around for thousands of years,
right.
In our mostly in the Eastern cultures. Our Western culture is very intellectual and kind of anti this kind of thing for the most part. But if you're willing to kind of let go of that Western intellectual thinking, then anyone can experience this type of working with energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the intellect, the part it's the problem. I think for me, it certainly was in my life and in my learning all this spiritual practice, was letting go of the intellectual. And it's still hard because that's how I was brought up. And that's my natural way. And I'm a scientific, rational thinker. Other people like Andrew, you're probably more a creative type, and there are a lot of people in the psychic schools that are creative types because it's easier for them to get there, I think. If you're more like me, it takes a lot to get somebody like me into a psychic school. Mm-hmm. It takes, but I guess I had in the background, I had the will to find out about it. So I got myself there, made the circumstances happen. But I encountered a shitload of resistance, pardon my language, every step of the way, and I still have it because of my early programming.
Yep. One thing I wanted to ask you, I know you touched a little bit on, you said you had that flying experience, we just did an interview recently with somebody, if you remember Erin, we talked with her about her experiences, and not all, experiences out of the body have to be this fully conscious, wild, crazy experience. So is there any experiences that come to mind that were in meditation that were more on the astral, whether it was like going to your records or even going beyond, like threshold type experience that that just comes to mind that you think would be interesting the viewers to listen to about?
Well, I have one that's kind of more in the body,
Mm-hmm.
but it's pretty wild. And then, when you talk about threshold experiences, I mean, that's a very high level.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, if you don't have the background in it, you don't want to be trying to have those experiences, right? I mean, without the proper background and guidance.
Sure.
Just because you're more likely to end up
Check out
not
early.
better off than better off. As interesting as it might be, it's like, well, if you're 9 years old, you want to jump in the middle of a football game. Probably not. It might be an interesting experience, but you're likely to get trampled.
Got it.
But one experience I had, and this was more on the telepathic level, and the kind of the knowingness of other beings level. Right now I'm living in Tucson, and I went to visit Sedona. This was a couple of years ago, around Thanksgiving. And Sedona is known for two things, basically. It's known for its spirituality, Native American kinds of things there, Southwest, and then also the UFOs. And so when I go there, I like to experience both. And so oftentimes I'll climb up to a mesa, I'll hike up to a mesa and talk to the spirits, the grandfathers or whatever, grandparents, whatever you want to call them up there. And I've had amazing conversations with some of those spirits, and learned amazing things and gotten, a very deep level of a hello. And then at night, I like to go on a UFO sighting journey. So I'll go out with a professional. She's a psychic, and she has a nightly excursion to take people out to look for UFOs. And she has night vision goggles, military grade. So you see every single thing 10,000 times what's in the normal sky with the normal eyes. You see 10,000, it's 10,000 times brighter, and you see 10,000 times more. So you see lights are everywhere. And you see lights moving across the sky. So stars are stable, they don't go anywhere, right? Planets are stable, they don't go anywhere. Helicopters and airplanes you see have flashing lights on them, and they have bigger lights and they're more diffuse, and you can see they're way closer than all the stars. So you can always identify terrestrial vehicles, distinguish them from the stars. And satellites, you can also notice, have a certain way of moving, and they move in a certain arc. Whereas other lights, which is not what you expect to see, because really what other lights are there, right? But yes, there are other lights, and they move across the sky. And sometimes they move across the sky in a group of 2 or 3 or even 4, and they'll move in a pattern, and then they'll break their pattern, and they'll move off in individual directions, or they'll take a right turn and then they'll disappear. And so they are, moving all around our atmosphere or outside of our atmosphere. And what helps you see them is because you're early at night, so the sun is kind of shining across the planet, whereas we're in darkness. Up above us is still lit, right? So that's why they get shined on. And if you went at 2 a.m, you might not see nearly as many because of that. And these lights, even sometimes, if you shine a laser light at them, a powerful laser light, they will, and this blew me away the first time I saw this, they will increase their light. So they will glow brighter, an instant after you flash them, to validate, to acknowledge that they saw you flash them. So it kind of, like, the first time I saw it, it blew my mind. It was really intriguing to me. And I'm kind of into UFOs. I follow what's going on, partly more because of this experience. So anyways, I was watching one, and I was watching, for the first hour, just kind of amazed. And then I realized, oh wait, I'm psychic here. I can see if I can communicate with any of these, beings, if there are beings in these vehicles. And so I kind of decided, all right, well, I'll send some telepathic messages. So I saw one going across, and I sent the message a few times. Didn't get a response. Finally, I just said, well, I'll just do it one more time, see what happens. And I wasn't thinking I didn't think through very well what I should send, what message I should send, right?
I do a lot of that.
Yeah, I just was like, well, it was just off the cuff, and it wasn't, I didn't give it much thought. So it was kind of a thoughtless act, unfortunately, and I regret it. But I sent this message, but the message I sent was, who are you? Right? I didn't say, hello, hi, I'm so-and-so, who are you? I said, who are you? Kind of like, a police officer, or somebody protecting the entrance to a door. Like, who the hell are you? And that was a mistake in terms of the tone or the energy with which I sent the message. And within like a half a second, literally a half a second, I got the telepathic message back. 2 parts to it. The first part, and Andrew, you know what this is. I got a whack. I got whacked. It's called whack, which means when you get energy thrown at you by some being, by some person, it can be a person without a body, they'll throw some kind of negative energy at you. It can be anger, it can be fear, it can be, whatever. But the main point of it is it feels bad. You feel invaded. I once got a Tai Chi transfer. So Tai Chi is a martial art where you develop your internal energy, and you can transfer it into other people. You don't have to use physical force. You just go boom, and that person literally goes flying back 20 feet. All right. So I had a teacher who could do that. He just did a little one for me, and it felt like my whole body was invaded literally by this energy. It felt horrible. I would never want that.
Right.
And a whack is often similar to that. It maybe doesn't go as deep in the body and resonates more in your aura, but you feel it on your body too. Yeah. So I got this whack, like I knew, because you can't whack yourself, right? You can't whack your own energy with your own energy, because it's all the same. So your energy never feels bad. So it was some other energy that came into you that you didn't ask for. So that was the first part. I'm like, oh shit. And then the next part of the message was just a very simple and direct and kind of an admonition: don't ask. I was like, well, and I realized, and then I realized, well, wow, I didn't do that very well, and I kind of tried to reconnect with them, but I didn't get anything back from them. Right. And I kind of sent them an I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was so abrupt. But I didn't hear anything back from them. But there was no question that I get a response from that particular telepathic message from whoever or whatever was up in that vehicle that I was looking at the time.
Right.
So, that, and again, it took me a few weeks to realize, oh, wow, maybe that was like it. That was an alien being, then that was a close encounter of the third kind, right? Because it was direct communication.
Right.
Isn't that the fifth kind? Because if you initiate it yourself and get a response, isn't that the fifth kind?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I follow Stephen Greer, and Stephen Greer talks about that stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, he's got a whole program where he tries to communicate with them, and he gets communications. Yeah.
At Sedona sometimes.
No.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Andrew, we prior to kind of ending our show, is just kind of try to end on some sort of tip, something that people can take away that might help them on their spiritual path. Is there something kind of simple or a short tip that you can provide that might help the listeners just in, meditation or spirituality, whatever you think off the top of your head that would go well here?
I would say two things.
Okay.
One is to, find a way to get educated. Like Damon, you've done this. Andrew, you've done this. I've done this. Get educated in some technique that, has been shown to work to help you, one, ground your body, and two, clear energy, and three, find that neutrality. Those to me would be the first steps. And then the next tip I would say is, well, once you start to do that, the universe will align against you because there's just a lot of resistance energy in our world, at least, that doesn't want you to learn these things, doesn't want you to have what you want to have. And so everything that kind of can come up as an obstacle will. So I would just say persevere, don't give up. And understand that, yes, because you're seeking more than other people are seeking, right? More than what is normal, more than what is allowed. You're going beyond limits, and people generally don't like that. And their energy, if nothing else, will get in your way. And just, be ready to say, well, I don't care. Right. And persevere.
Cool. I
That's
like
what
it.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you teach and you offer psychic readings. Can you talk about that and just how people can connect with you if they want to do that?
Sure. I offer both professional psychic readings and healings. Typically, each one is an hour. And I can be reached at amstaub88@gmail.com. And right now I'm in Tucson. I'm not really, obviously, in the current status of things, I'm not doing in-person readings, but I do them over Zoom.
Right.
Same thing with healings. And actually, I have clients in Europe, clients in Asia, Hawaii. And it doesn't matter where a client is, because readings don't happen in time and space. They happen, separate from that. Right. So, and hopefully within a month or so, I'll have moved to Ecuador. And Ecuador is basically kind of on Chicago or New York time. So that's not an issue. So I'm happy to work with anybody who's interested. That's it.
Cool. Yeah, cool. And we've read together before. Long ago in the past, and I've always enjoyed getting readings from you. So yeah, anybody out there that's wanting a reading, definitely recommend Andrew. So anything? I think we'll wrap it up actually. But thank you for coming on the show and talking about your experiences and just sharing your wisdom with us and the audience. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Damon. I enjoyed it. Good luck with everything. I mean, I really wish you guys well.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thanks. Awesome.
All right.
Well, we'll see you on the Astral. I hope you enjoyed the and hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time. Take care.